Okay, welcome to my page, I Choose Me. I'm glad to have you here, and I'm here with the beautiful Courtney Robertson to talk to you about her organization for little girls, and I'm going to let her take over now and tell you more about that organization. Please tell us, Courtney.
So I Believe in Me Girls has been active for 4 years now. We are in 2 locations within Baltimore City, and we are all about girl power. So our mission is to make sure that we give the girls a space to learn and grow and be themselves without judgment. We do different things within the organization just to cultivate their excitement for themselves and their peers and the community around them. We're really big on giving back to the community and working within the community. So as we talk, I will share with you a little bit about our Healthy Harvest Heroes project, which is a real life STEM project that they are working on over time. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for right now, we are just all about good energy for our girls. For myself, when I looked out on the internet one day for something for my daughter, I found that there was nothing, like nothing exists where people look like her. They had the same issues as her, the same concerns as her, the same desires as her. So I figured create it, for her. So it's just all history from there.
Oh, wow. That's so crazy because in my book, I Choose Me, I talk about my preschool, and we did a STEM in the opening of my preschool. We did a STEM workshop or summer camp for toddlers, and to kickstart and to market for that organization. So what do you, this is part of your organization that you have. You have another job as well. So how did you come up with this organization? I know you said your daughter was very influential, but
Yeah.
does it connect with your main job, or is this something that you wanted you to take over it, or
Yeah. So actually,
or
I am a paralegal by trade. So that is what I do by day.
Mhm.
I have a heart to help people. So, of course, eventually I want this to be the thing that I do. I actually work with 2 other nonprofits as well. So, for the most part, for me, I just want to help make every day a better day for those that I come in contact with. So, whatever I can do to do that, that is my goal.
Mhm. When did you first start this nonprofit?
In 2017, the idea was birthed, and it actually was birthed in a difficult situation that I had. I was having a hard day at work, and I kept telling myself, I believe in me, I believe in me, I can do this. No matter how hard it is, no matter what it looks like, I can do this. And for whatever reason, I bought the domain name on that day, and I didn't know why. And God actually started to give me the vision over the next few months. And in 2018, we were officially established. And we have had over 100 girls in our program at one time. And we've only been active for 4 years. So it's been a blessing to watch it grow.
You've had 100 girls at one time?
In the year 2019, we actually had 107 girls registered in the program.
Mhm.
Due to the pandemic, we had to stop, of course, in 2020 when everything shut down. We had to stop meeting in person, but we were able to pivot and still do our group mentoring via Zoom. So we did take our platform virtual, and we still stayed connected to the girls even during the pandemic.
Oh, wow. So what was I going to ask? That's amazing. So do you have a building? Are they in a building? How often do they meet for the organization?
So we do not have a building yet, but that is definitely in the plan to have our own space. Brick and mortar is, of course, the ultimate goal. At this time, we meet for our group sessions at 2 rec centers, one in Turner Station and one in Woodlawn. And we meet there on Sundays for 2 hours. And in addition to group mentoring, we offer one-on-one mentoring for the girls.
Oh, okay, amazing. So did you do this solely on your own, or did you and some other girlfriends get together, or some colleagues to kickstart this program?
So I created the idea, but I have an amazing team of women that support the program. We're all volunteers, and we do this again because we have a heart to help. When I first came up with the idea, I reached out to a few women that I'm connected to in different ways, and we had a meeting at Panera, and I told them, this is what I want to do, and I think that this will be great, and it will be so beneficial. And I outlined everything that I wanted to do and what I wanted to see happen. And I said, can you support me? Can you be a part of the team to do X, Y, and Z? And they all agreed. And we just continued to grow from there. And it was really joyous to see. I actually look back at that agenda maybe a few months ago, and to see that even in 2017, we had this amazing vision, and we've been able to cross off everything on that list except for one, and that is the building. So
Yeah,
that's to come.
definitely. I'm sure you're proud of that. That is an amazing accomplishment. In my book, I Choose Me, I decided to do a preschool for girls because I wanted to work on the self-esteem of women because of the relationship that I had been in, my marriage. And I felt like I wouldn't have gotten into a relationship like that if I would have had that self-confidence instilled in me at an early age. How important is that in your teaching and your practice with developing and creating this organization for young ladies?
Oh, it's huge, because if you don't have that self-esteem and that self-worth, it's hard to be truly successful in life, because people often measure success by how much you have, whether it be money or a house or a car, but it's truly how full is your life. And it's hard to have a full life when you don't know who you are and you can't love who you are. So definitely instill in them the importance of loving yourself, to look in the mirror and be able to tell yourself all the beautiful things that you see on the inside, not just on the outside. Character is really, really important. So just getting them to identify what are your positive characteristics, because those are the things that people are going to see in your actions, and those are the things that are going to be lasting.
Exactly. I definitely agree. I think for when I talk to women, my peer group, I'm always seeing this dynamic that I feel like if we had that level of confidence, we could just soar and we could just do so much more. You know what I mean? As women, um, I think a lot of times the lack of it as females gets us into a lot of conundrums, a lot of situations that sometimes we can't get ourselves out of. I know you talked about the Harvest Festival. Is that what it was called, the Harvest Festival? And I've seen pictures of the lettuce and the farming that your organization was doing. Tell us more about some of the community work that your organization is doing with the young ladies.
So we wanted to find a way to connect some of the things that the girls were learning in a real life project. So we hope to hear about STEM programs and girls learning the different areas of STEM, just being a little more versed in science and technology. But there's really not a lot of ways that we're showing them how to incorporate it in everyday life, especially agriculture. And with fresh food being an issue for so many in underserved areas, we thought that it would be a great idea to expose them to growing fresh fruits and vegetables. Because if we can create communities that are self-sustaining, then the money aspect can kind of be removed. We have so many of our underprivileged and underserved girls living in communities where there are food deserts. Like, there are no supermarkets within a 4-mile radius for them to get fresh food. So they don't have access to this. We're trying to teach them how to do it themselves, and how to take seeds and take small plants and grow something for themselves. And it also, teaches them in terms of science, what it takes to actually grow a plant, what the sun does, what the soil does, and how watering, contributes to growing your food daily, and just how rich it is when you grow it fresh from the earth without any pesticides. So it's been a great learning experience for our girls in that aspect.
What are some other activities they've done as well throughout the years that you're really proud of?
That we're proud of. So the things that I'm most proud of that we do is when we actually host all of our community events. Again, I'm big on community. So annually we do a backpack giveaway. So just seeing the girls being active there and helping to organize and pack the book bags to give them out to the community. We have serviced over 500 students with backpacks filled with school supplies. So to me, that's a big deal. We also have our 50 meals for 50 families, where we choose a few families in the school system to provide holiday meals for. So for me, being able to show them how important it is to give back and what that looks like, that's like the most exciting part for me. In addition to that, when I get those phone calls and those text messages that are like, oh, Miss Courtney, this happened, I'm so excited. I found this out, or I learned this new thing today, or even when they reach out and they're trying to navigate through an issue, just knowing that we've built such a strong relationship that they feel comfortable talking to me and sharing that with me is huge. Lets me know that what we're doing is creating a lot of progress. But my most exciting, that just reminded me, and I don't know how that skipped my mind. So we had a few years ago a Believe in Your Power event where we had different women entrepreneurs come in and do workshops for the girls and share with them. We had a graphic designer come in, teach them about coding, and we had someone come in to speak with them about to do spoken word with them. We had Black Girls Vote come in and talk to them. We just had a really full day. We had a young lady, Zandra, who is actually her name is Zandra Cunningham. She's looking to put her products in Target right now, but she had a natural skincare line. So she helped them make facial scrubs. But it was just an amazing day just to see the girls doing a little bit of everything and seeing all the magic, just being empowered by other women that were doing different things. Because when we first started the program, I asked them what did they want to do and what did they want to be, and most of them said, oh, I want to be a singer, I want to be a dancer. And it's like, that's great, but there are so many other things that you can be. So one of the things that we try to do is just expose them to the more. So show them different areas that they can grow and flourish, and help them find interest in things that they didn't even know were out there. So that's one thing that we try to do. And in March, we are having that event again, and we are going to be exploring the arts. So showing them how to DJ, how to create, how to do culinary art and fashion design. So just showing different ways that they can flourish in the arts. So I'm really excited about that.
You seem very excited about what is the age group that most of the girls are? What's the average age group, or what does it span?
We serve ages 8 to 18, but I see the largest need being our middle school girls, because in middle school, that's when you start feeling a little awkward, your body's changing, you're not sure exactly who you are. So I find that that's like the most, I don't want to say troubling age, but that's the age when nothing really makes sense to them. So we get a lot of parents that call and like, hey, I don't know what's going on with my daughter, like she's not talking a lot. And I just want to make sure that she's okay and give her a good outlet. So that seems to be our prime age, the middle school age.
Does it cost money for them, or do they get donations? How do you defund this organization? So you said it was a nonprofit, so they don't have to pay. Is that how it is?
So they pay a $20 registration fee. However, all of their materials for the entire year is a 10-month program. We go from September through June. Everything is covered by the program. We do fundraisers throughout the year, and we get corporate sponsorships, and we have some amazing individual donors as well.
Oh, wow. That's amazing, Courtney. Think about when you were, let's say, middle school age. Think about your experiences. Remember, let's reflect back on this. how important would this have been to your life when you were that age? How important would it have been how would it have changed you if someone would have developed or had this as an asset to you when you were in middle school?
I think I would have, I don't really think that I lacked confidence, but I wasn't sure about a lot of things. And
Mhm.
I believe that if I had somebody that was giving me that reassurance and telling me, how amazing I could be and everything that was right at my fingertips, I think that I would have maybe been a little happier when
Mhm.
I was in my 20s. And as you stated, maybe not entertained certain things and ended up in certain situations because I would have known my worth and exactly all that I could be. So I think just having someone around that can reiterate to you that you're special and that you matter, and showing you how you matter and doing things that make you feel like you matter, outside of your parents, because your parents, you always feel like, oh, they have to love me. They're my
Yeah,
parents. They have to
you
tell me that I'm
expect it.
beautiful. They're my parents. They have to support me. But having somebody else there to just cheer you on and support you, I think is really important and helpful.
And definitely, definitely. Where do you want to take this organization? Where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
Oh, like bigger than the Girl Scouts. So ultimately, I'm creating something for my daughter that I hope that she holds on to and continues as well. Because again, I saw so many young ladies, and I still do, of course, that look like they're dying inside and nobody's paying attention. They're not speaking up. We have so many resources for young men because you hear about the violence in our community so much. So
Mhm.
people try to put things together to make sure that the boys are taken care of, but the girls really don't have much. So this is something that, of course, I want to take nationally eventually, something just to, again, show our girls that someone's paying attention to them and that someone hears them and that someone sees them. So I think that, for me, I just want to see it grow in a way that it can touch many.
Mhm. I think it's amazing. I get a lot of backlash sometimes because it's like everybody's like, "Oh, you're so pro woman. Everything is about girls. What about the boys?" And we hear this all the time about Black women being the most unprotected, uncared for population, the subgroup through time that so much has happened to us. And we're trying to protect our future generation of women, so they learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
I heard you say that your daughter, inspired you. You wanted to leave a legacy for her. In my book, I Choose Me, I talk about my daughter December and how she helped me so much with changing my life and wanting to change my situation. Because when I was in that relationship, I thought about her being in a situation like that and how I would look at it and how much it would hurt me to see her have to go through some of the things that I was going through. And
Mhm.
I know that if I stayed in that relationship, that was going to be also the type of person that she sought as a companion,
Yeah.
in her life. And I couldn't handle it and I couldn't deal with it. And we almost all, it's kind of crazy to say, but my sons understood that. You know what I mean? Like even though they were still around 12 or 13, and I said in my book, I left that decision up to them leaving because we get this thing where we're like, Black men need their Black father. They need that
Yeah.
hero. And I got a lot of backlash about leaving my sons there with their dad from some of my girlfriends and family members. But I asked them and I let them be a part of that decision making process. But they still understood how important it was for their little sister to be in a safe environment and to see and be how to be respected and so forth. I know you have other children. You have a boy too. How many children do you have?
I have two sons and a daughter. So I have an older son, an adult son. He's an adult.
Mhm. Yeah,
He's,
that's how mine is. Mine is an adult man. Mine's 19, and then I have a 17-year-old.
yes, I have a 22-year-old and a 10-year-old son. And I think it's important. even for them, my youngest son was in the car. We were driving somewhere a few weeks ago, and out of nowhere, he said, "Mommy, I'm really proud of you." And I said, "Oh, you're really proud of me?" I said, "Thank you." I said, "What are you proud of me for?" And he was like, "Everything that you've done with IBIM." He said, "I watched you build it, and it was
Oh,
nothing." And he said, "You started it, and now you have all of these colors everywhere." And I was like, is really nice. Thank you. Like that was inspiring for me because you know how it is. Sometimes you get
mhm.
stuck in a place and you don't really know how much you're helping and it's hard and you
Oh,
run into all these roadblocks and you want to quit and you're like, but I
yeah.
can't because people depend on me. And it gets discouraging some days, even in
It is.
help. It gets very discouraging. So even having moments like that let me know that they're watching, so
Mm,
I have to be careful about how I move and the things that they see me doing because I'm talking to them, but I'm also living in front of them. So, just as you said, what you wanted your daughter to see, I want my daughter to see the same thing. I want her to see strength in me. I want her to see a woman that loves herself and is going through a journey of trying to understand who she is and
mm,
what she needs. So I always ask her, are you okay? What are you feeling? I encourage her to embrace those moments and not feel like, because as women, a lot of times we think that we have to be so strong that we can't feel anything or we can't let our emotions really resonate. And I tell her all the time, it's okay, identify how you're feeling, feel it,
mm,
and figure out what you're going to do to get past it. Because of course we don't want to dwell in that space if it's negative. However, we do have to try to understand it and really feel it and not just move past it. Because sometimes you're like, oh, suck it up, move on. It's like, no,
yeah.
I can't. I have to understand it before I can move on. If I can't understand it, how can I heal in that space? How can I push past that space if I don't even know what it is or where it came from? So many times we're like, oh, let me pick up this bag and keep it moving.
Mm,
And we encourage our girls in the program. We have a wheel and we often ask them, like, what are you feeling? Like, look at all these words. Because a lot of times we say, I'm sad. And it's like, well, why are you sad? Are you disappointed? Are you frustrated? Are you lonely? Are you feeling like something is missing? There are so many different levels to an emotion. So saying that I'm happy, it's like, okay, I'm happy, but is it because I feel fulfilled? Is it because I feel at peace? Is it because of what? So even digging a little deeper to help them identify and use words for exactly to explain how they're feeling. And nobody ever taught me that
yeah.
growing up that it was that deep, and it really is. And I think that that helps you along.
Oh, it definitely is because I always caught myself being a teacher when talking to Black females, young girls, telling them to put their big girl panties on. And then I had started to see shows and I started to see people say, that's the thing in our community. We're always teaching our women to keep it moving. Don't feel you don't have time to cry about it. You have to keep moving. And then then it's funny because then you hear, oh, Black women have an attitude, or oh, Black women can't be vulnerable, or Black women can't be this, when we've been told our entire life that we have to be strong. We don't get the opportunity to cry. So for you to be teaching young ladies that it is okay to be in contact and touch with your feelings is amazing. That's really amazing because that's definitely 100% true. Um, Me and my girlfriends, we were saying, it is, hard trying to get advertising and market my book and all the other when I had my daycare center. Sometimes you feel like you want to quit, you want to give up or whatever. How often did with trying to just get this nonprofit off the ground, do you think you probably thought to yourself, I can't do this. This is too much. I'm over my head with this.
Oh, often, because I went in not knowing anything really about the business side. So it's all been trial and error. So for me, it was, this is what I want to do. I love helping. I love working with kids. But now I have to figure out all this business stuff. And like you said, there isn't really a lot of room for us. I was at an event last week, and we were talking about what do women need to be successful in business. And it's like the access to resources, just being able to, when you're starting a business and you're trying to figure out the financial piece, the marketing piece, just making sure that you have all of these things covered that may not be your area of expertise, but then people charge all this money and it's like you can't afford this, or you don't have the funding in place yet. One of the biggest pieces of red tape for me in the beginning was people don't want to fund you when nobody else is funding you. It's like, okay, well, what other sponsors do you have? None, because I need one. Like, they're like, oh, well, you need to get more sponsors. It's like, how? How am I going to get?
Like, I need one person to start me off.
And I was blessed enough to, eventually have people to pour into me. But even on a larger scale, they still want to see like what large corporations are sponsoring you. So just even as a woman trying to break through those barriers, because I feel like men just are able to get the connections and get the things that they need so much easier. They have access. It's like, it's different, a lot different for women. But what I've realized or what I've experienced is the ones that have poured into our program the most are other Black women. So there are Black women that are in corporate America that say, hey, I want to reach back and pull my young ladies along. And that's how we're getting most of our support. It isn't coming from, now, don't get me wrong, we've had some men that, consistently support us, but for the most part, it has been our community of Black women.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like, that's why this whole thing with my podcast and with it celebrates women, and it celebrates all women. So far, I've had mostly Black women, but I can think of so many women of all ethnicities when I was living in North Carolina who were supportive and helpful with me raising my children and just being a support system. And I was a support system from them. I think it's just a special relationship that women have with one another and a common bond that we have, whether it's through birthing, through prejudice, it's all of that. That we have that bonds us. That's why it's so important to me to, as a feminist, and just to raise the self-esteem and awareness of women in generally, because it's important. It has nothing to do with, and I notice when people talk about the self-care and self-love of women, I've seen so much that for some reason it gets translated that we're trying to take men out the picture. We're downgraded men, but it's the point of is that through history of time, you see where women have been looked at as the footstool, to men. And a lot of times when you really dig deep in research, a lot of these inventors were using the ideas of their wives, the inventions of their wives, and they were the speakers for the work that they did, and they weren't celebrated and they weren't honored. And I know so many amazing women. I know so many women who are doing amazing things. That's why I said, what better yet than to celebrate these hometown heroes, So I'm definitely excited about what you're doing. I want to participate and get December in there as well. And you say y'all meet every Sunday?
So we have 2 locations. We meet at each one every other Sunday. So it's bi-weekly that we meet.
Okay, so you switch the locations.
Every Sunday, yes, we switch locations.
So you said, what was the other one? The one was?
One is Woodlawn and the other is Dundalk. And we're now actually writing a proposal for a space in Baltimore City.
So is it in the school? Is it at the
recreation center?
In the rec center there. Okay. Yes, that is amazing. I definitely want to see how I can help too. And do you remember who your first sponsor was when you started?
Our first sponsor was Madison Mason Homes. So India Whitlock was our first sponsor. She's been so amazing to our girls. 2 years ago, she surprised us during one of her events, and she actually sponsored a few of our girls for a trip to Spain. So in summer 2022, we are headed to Spain. Yes, thanks to
Oh my gosh.
very first event that we had, we hosted a movie screening, and that's what she sponsored for us. And the movie was A Wrinkle in Time. And what we wanted to do was highlight what's her name? Stormy Reed,
Mm-hmm.
a young black lead, a young black female lead.
Yeah.
So we went to see the movie, and every girl participant received a copy of the novel as well. So that was the very first event that we ever hosted.
Mhm.
For me, it was a really big deal because I remember walking in, and one of my fellow mentors, she was like, "Oh, we rented the entire theater," and I said, "Yeah." So to me, it was
Mhm.
like that was the first step in kind of showing what we were about, and what we were willing to do for the girls, because we actually had 100 people in the theater that day, and
Mhm.
it was a really successful event.
Wow. So you had 100 people come out to participate in that.
For our
Wow. And that was funded through the sponsors for all those girls to attend.
Yes, so and it was cool
Thank you.
because she sponsored the theater, and we were able to give everyone snacks, and then two of our high school classmates actually sponsored the books. I reached out to them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Kmar Brooks and
Mm.
Tasha Miles, I reached out to them on Facebook, and I'm like, "Hey guys."
Mhm.
I knew that they were in construction together, and I was like, "Hey guys," I was like, "We're doing this thing. I started this organization. I need your help." And they were like, "Sure." And they took care of the novels for the girls, which was a really big deal. So that was super exciting. And it just, for me, the whole experience has shown me that if you are good to people and
Mm.
you are helpful, people will help you, because we've gotten so much support. I mean, I've
Mhm.
received a very heartwarming response to the program over the last 4 years. So I'm really, really grateful for that.
I know I always have like you were saying, with trying to just get it up off the ground, I struggle so much with trying to ask people for help and
Mhm.
ask people for things. That's my biggest thing. And it's like I try to do everything on my own and trying to reach out, and then I get discouraged if I don't hear from 'em. I'm like, okay, forget it. I'm not gonna follow up because they just don't want to do it. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to get better at that. You know what I mean? Because I definitely want to extend, I started with this book, and from networking is what opening up my own nonprofit to help other women who are victims of domestic violence, and just women who want to live their best life, and are struggling with what that even means. Because I think as mothers, we sacrifice everything and we put everything on the line, and that's what we're told that we're supposed to do, and we're supposed to be last all the times with everything.
Always last.
So yes, always last. Eat last, feed the kids, feed your husband, then you eat last. If the food will probably be cold,
Yes.
do this or whatever, get it prepared. And that's why when I saw that, I just was amazed, and impressed, because I know how important it is. As a young girl, I think I talked about in my book, I talked about my experiences in middle school. And when I was in middle school, um, dealt with a lot of bullying and teasing. My mother, we didn't have a lot of money. I was trying to go to a private school. My mother was trying to pay for this private school. She was a single mother. Um, and it was overwhelming, because I had to um, be in there for a group of kids. And it was one girl in particular that I had really admired, but she wasn't the nicest person. I think I just looked at her and I just thought, that's who I want to be. We looked a little bit alike, and she always came to school neatly groomed and ready, and was outspoken. And I was pretty shy in middle school. And I think like an organization like yourself for somebody like me would have really, really helped me as a middle school student, and blossoming, into young adulthood, would have definitely helped me um, get out of a lot of certain situations that I had walked myself into.
I think it's really beneficial because, as I said, my daughter, she's in the program. She is a thriving sixth grader now, and
Mhm.
she's making the transition, into middle school, and things are a little different for her right now. She has a mentor within the program, and I can see a difference in her,
Oh,
since she's had time with her mentor because she too was a little shy. Around, people that she knows, she's pretty outspoken, but didn't say much really to anyone else outside of family. But she's gone to this new school and she is thriving and she has a new friend group and she is really like using her voice about a lot of things. And I've noticed such a huge change in her over the last few months.
I like the fact that you said that she has a mentor, because for her to have an amazing mother, and then for you to trust, and she has someone else outside of you to guide her, is an amazing thing. And for people to recognize that, because that's almost like a therapist, or almost like, someone else that you're entrusting your child to. A lot of times I think, a lot of us are working mothers, and we're working fathers, working parents, and we think we know everything that's going on with our kids.
Mhm.
And sometimes they don't come to us for everything. They might feel more comfortable for some reason talking to someone else, or they might feel shy, and certain things they don't feel like they can always come to you about, or just a second person is amazing.
Hard sometimes, as I stated before, to get that validation that you're looking for, and that comfort and understanding. Because again, your parents, they have to, or you feel that they have to tell you the good stuff, the positive stuff.
Mhm.
And sometimes you want the real stuff. You want the honest feedback, and you want something a little different than what you hear every day. So I think that is good for me. That's one of the reasons why I value her mentor, and mentee relationship so much, because I know that they have conversations and they have fun. And sometimes, like you said, I work every day. I come home, I'm tired. I might not um, be in a space to listen in that moment the way that her mentor may when they have that time together. And then it's different. It's not mom. It's like, just like she has a mentor, I'm a mentor, to some of
Mhm.
the girls, and I hear their moms like, oh, she doesn't talk to me like that, or she doesn't do that with me. And it's just like, I'm someone different, for her to open up to. I can still give her those words of wisdom. Um, but I'm not necessarily her friend, but I give her that, relaxed vibe that a friend would give.
I
So
think that's that auntie, like that African tradition where everybody, is your Auntie Courtney, Auntie, Tanya, everybody. And that's what I love, that relationship, that bond that women can have
mm,
together. Because when you go and you look in the media and you look out, you see all this competition, you see all this cattiness among women, but it's also, you see this other side, that's just a rich side of spiritual, and every time I get a woman on here, she's talking about spirituality, God. She's talking about her business thriving, and not just growing in her business, but putting her arm back and helping others come forward as well with her. And that's what makes it such a beautiful thing.
yes.
Um,
Something that we have been so blessed with within the program, because all of our girls get along really well. Whenever someone new comes in, they accept them and embrace them with open arms. And I have an amazing team of mentors that are filled with so much magic. I mean, each of them, they have some of the most amazing gifts. I'm always the first to say that something is not my lane. I believe in operating in my space and in my gifts, and I let others do the same. And I have just been blessed in that area, because each of my mentors, they have an amazing skill to bring to the table. So that for me has definitely added to the success of the program. For
so
sure.
how many mentors do you guys have at the in the organization? Is it based upon how many? Is it like when you go there, there's a certain number of teachers? Are they broken up into groups, or do they have an assigned mentor while they're in the program?
So we have 13 mentors, and they are broken up into locations.
Mhm.
So each of them, we have a few that go to both locations, but most of them go to one or the other, and then they service a group. So
Mm,
whether it's elementary school, middle school, our elementary school Darling Dreamers, our middle school Bright Stars, and our youth ambassadors, our high school students, and we
mhm,
usually have two mentors assigned to each age group.
mhm. Oh wow, that's amazing, Courtney.
It's
I'm so proud of you.
I never would have thought when I was in high school I wanted to be a dentist. But this is different because again, this is something that I volunteer and do. So it's definitely something that I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose in doing that.
Yes. That's what it's all about anyway, is fulfilling your purpose, because I think when you're working, like I'm getting up in the morning, 5 a.m. in the morning, get ready for work, and you're like, oh, I gotta go in here. But when you get to really do a piece a day of something that you love to do, and it makes you feel fulfilled, and then for it to be something like you're doing, like to help other women, and it's so, as a teacher, I always have kids who come back, and I don't, my memory is bad. But they come back and they remember these things that you said to them to be influential, to
Yeah.
be chosen, because that's kind of like what it is, Courtney. God chose you. You know what I'm saying? Like you said that day that you sit up there and you decided you weren't feeling well, and you decided out the blue to pick a domain to go ahead and start it. That's part of
Not
that being
feeling well.
chosen. Mhm.
I was beyond not feeling well. I was crying. I was frustrated. I felt so defeated in that moment. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I can tell them firsthand what it is, to be in those spaces and
Mhm.
still have to, find your reason why and push forward toward the goal, whatever the goal may be.
I know when my dad, I used the money from my father passing to start the girls group, the preschool for girls, and I felt like God was telling me to do it. Like I felt like I had dreamed it, and I wrote about that, and I said, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to take all this money and low off of it and put it in towards this organization. And I put all the things together. I built all the toys and the apparatus, and painted the walls. And it was like I was making my own baby. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I was making my child was growing inside of me. And and I waited there, starting to go through those. That's when I really had to learn what it meant, that business aspect, to be an entrepreneur. And it was a wake-up call.
It's hard.
It is hard.
It
I
is.
was like,
I
what? Like they make it, some people make it look easy, because I don't think they share enough of the
don't.
downs.
They
They not
don't.
People don't like to talk negative, but sometimes it gives you a realistic
Yes.
idea of what's going on. And people can be on your journey, and they can celebrate with you. They can celebrate your wins as well as what's happening, what you consider a loss.
Yes.
But when I had to close it down, and because I was running out of money, and I had actually had a seizure, I was overwhelmed with everything going on, and I just did not have help. So I had to go back to Maryland with my family, which was close. That's why the reason why I left. But I just cried. Like I literally, like when I had to take the things down, I just literally sat up there, and I just cried, like that kind of hard cry that you have, that's in your gut. Like it almost, I feel like it's like a wolf or a animal dying,
Mhm.
because I had so many dreams for it, and then people would say, "Oh, just do one here." And I felt almost like it was like people, if someone had a miscarriage and you're telling them go have another baby after they just had the miscarriage,
Yeah.
and it was hard. It was hard. I didn't even want to look at anything that was similar, because all it did was make me sad, and it made me vulnerable, and it made me reflect back on what I had that didn't take place.
But sometimes I think when we talked about this during our the event last week about women just having room to fail. So sometimes I think we have this misconception that everything that we do is going to prosper and that everything is going to flourish automatically. And it just doesn't work like that. I mean, in order for you to figure it out, Like you have to fail along the way. Every door that you knock on is not going to open. Every event that you prepare isn't going to be successful. Every business venture that you have isn't going to take off and skyrocket. It's not going to happen. And even in any business, you have your moments of lull, your moments of negative return or negative outcome. But the way that I look at it is, what are you willing to do with those things that you learned in the process? So if you're saying that God gave it to you, maybe he gave it to you in that moment to say, hey, this is what I want you to do. You saw all that you could do. You saw all the things that you were able to do on your own. And then you also learned that in order to be successful, what you needed was a team. So that doesn't mean that the vision falls by the wayside and dies. It just says, okay, pause. You know what it took to do this. You know that you have what it takes to create it. Now, what are your pitfalls? Okay, now that you know that these are your pitfalls, how do you recover from that? Okay, I know the next time when I go to execute this again, I will do X, Y, and Z in preparation. That doesn't mean that it has to die.
Mm-hmm.
Moment. It
Yeah,
just
exactly.
you learn the pros and the cons. I have learned so many pros and cons
I've been learning a lot just talking to people, just doing these podcast interviews and hearing about people and the encouragement that I've been getting from just hearing y'all stories and what it is, things that I never knew, about that process that y'all took to get to where you are today. It's been very beautiful. Hopefully, this will reach to the audience so they can get, but I'm getting so much out of these interviews from the women that I'm talking to. It's like amazing. Like it's helping me because in my journey with this book, it's giving me encouragement. Every time I interview someone, hearing their story makes me feel better. It keeps me thriving, keeps me pushing. Like, yes, I'm going to do it because Courtney did it. I'm going to do it because Nefertiti did it. I'm going to do it because Ebony did it, who I interviewed. Brandy did it. I'm going to do it because they keep thriving and going. And I think this is going to help so many women, just what you told me just now, just like that we're not supposed to assume that everything is always supposed to be a win.
Nope.
With my, I said, I don't know if you ever saw, but recently, in last February, I ended up saving a little girl's life, giving her CPR that I learned when I had the center. And I used to tell people when I had the center, because I also met all these amazing women, the mothers that came to my center. I had a small group, but we had this camaraderie. We would literally, I had mothers sitting there. We're in like Indian style. We're sitting like crisscross applesauce, and women breastfeeding. They're breastfeeding their children. They wanted something that was more home-like, because I had a center, but they didn't want the traditional big center. I had healthy food, everything. So, and we would have these major discussions. It was like we were sisters and we're family, and we were supportive with each other, and they shared things with me. And in my book, there was a part that I wrote. There was a young lady, Selena, who cooked food at my center for me. And I knew that my center was getting ready to close down and so forth. I already I had to go to a court for someone to help them with their situation, and their spouse had spoken negatively of my center because they were trying to make themselves look good at the custody thing, and I was there representing the other party. And they were being supportive, and I wanted to be completely honest, you know what I mean, when I was in there. And we had already just had a hurricane or tornado or something, so it had damaged a lot of the outside part of my center. And so I already knew my center was closing. So when I got back, I asked Selena, I said, can you hold me? And Selena was behind the kitchen counter, and she was like, yes, hold on one second. And she wiped the counter off. She found a spot, and I sit up there with her, and she opened her arms, and I cried in her arms for, I don't know if it was 30 minutes or more. I cried in her arms, and I wrote about that in my book because it was such a touching thing. I was a single mother. I was by myself. She was also a single mother. And I needed her support. I needed somebody to hold me. and I didn't have to run to no man or nothing like that. I was able to run to a friend.
Yeah.
And we hadn't known each other forever, but we known each other for a couple of years. And she didn't care. I snotted up her shirt or nothing. She didn't care. But she stood up there and she just was there for me.
I think we need those vulnerable moments. Like
Yeah.
to be able to have those spaces and even having these conversations and being able to say, I experienced this or I felt this way. To also let each other know that you're not alone. A lot of times what happens is we think that we're alone in our situation, so we keep things bottled up inside, and healing growth can't take place in that space. You did that, because how often I thought about it one day. I was like, you know what? I hardly ever hug the people that I'm closest to. You know how you see people that you haven't seen for a long time, or just, I don't want to say random people, but people you aren't as close to, and you'll hug them every time you see them. And then when I thought about it, I'm like, some of the people that I'm closest to, I very rarely hug. And not because I don't love them, but it's almost that unspoken, how I feel about you thing. And it's like, but that's not, why is that? What is that all about? And I still haven't really fully figured that out. But I think, just you being able to say that was huge, to say, this is what I need.
Yeah, I told her I am a big girl. If I'm having a bad day at my job, I will find me an old lady. Or if I go to church, I'm telling you, I will find me an old lady. I will walk up on her and tell her, "Can you hold me in a minute?" I did that at work. I had a situation that happened at home. It's so crazy because it's just like I'm thinking, like, should I share this? Should I not share this? It's like I had a really bad situation that happened. And I had to go to work, and I had already been missing for 3 days. And I sit up here and I went and I was getting nervous and I was getting anxiety. And I saw this lady. I hardly speak to this lady. I just know she seems nice and she's an older lady. You know what I mean? Seems spiritual. And I walked past her and I went back and I said, "Can you give me a hug?" And she said, "Of course." And she opened her arms up because my grandmothers are passed. And I'm at work, kids are running back and forth. And she's retired now. And I said, can you give me a hug? And she just opened her arms and she just hugged me for like 2 or 3 minutes or whatever. And I was able to fulfill the rest of my day. This woman had no idea what I was asking the hug for. I knew what it was for, and I talk about it in my book. But the thing about it was that she gave me this hug, and it was like what I needed to keep going for that day to go ahead, because I had no choice. I'm a single mother. I had to go to work for my daughter to provide for us and take care of us. And all I wanted, was that. And I was happy that I could get it from a safe environment, from a safe person, and I've done it in church. I've been at church and I've leaned my head on someone who looks nice. And let me tell you, these older women don't care. And Jay will literally, I know their arm is wrapped around me and they're rubbing my back or my head. And I will put my whole arm around. I know it's weird, but I just do it. You know what I mean? I'm just do it. They give me love. And if I see them again, they might never even know my name, but they know that hug they gave me, and they give me a smile and a kiss and everything. So yeah, I still hugs and holds from old ladies.
A little fact.
So just y'all better protect your grandmothers out here, y'all mothers out here, because I'm going to get them if I see them and I'm not feeling well. And the thing I love about it is they don't even ask me no questions.
Why? Yeah.
They don't ask. They don't say why. And I think too, with us being in the age of pandemic and the COVID, everybody's scared to touch one another. Yeah. You know what I mean? Even with me teaching, when we were hybrid, I wasn't mixing in with the kids. But now I'm the kid. And I remember when I first started teaching, I was coming from Montessori. I'm touching kids. It's like, get off of me. Now, like, yeah, that's how, because I was going back to regular public school and they were like, what is she doing? Like, because we did this gentle touch thing for acknowledgement in Montessori. Yeah. But I've noticed coming back from hybrid, I'm in mixed in. I have my mask on, the kids have their mask on, but I'm getting right next to them. I'm sitting next to them because I'm making sure they do their work. And I, one boy, I was like adjusting his face to the screen. I was like, look at the screen. And they miss the touch. I know they missed it.
I think that is one of the most important things. And I can see the difference now in a lot of people now that we can't, or that we're not supposed to as often. I think people need it. I think that you really need it for health reasons. I think that
you need it.
It aids in your well-being. I think it honestly aids in your well-being.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thankful that you came and you were allowed me to interview you. I know you kept on saying thank you. I was like, thank you. You know what I mean? Because I want to highlight your business. I want to bring more people to it, have more locations, make it nationwide, like you said, Courtney. I believe in me. And that's what you were saying. And you were quoting, and the Lord was telling you that he believed in you. And then he showed you this beautiful business that you set out here to do for young ladies so that they could believe in themselves. And I'm amazingly proud of you. And I hope you're proud of yourself. Your kids told you to be proud of you as well. All you accomplished, right?
Thank you so much. Yes.
Is there anything you want to leave? Any words you would want to tell anybody who's trying to start a nonprofit and just hesitant or having anxiety? What would you want to tell them?
So I always tell people, dream it, believe it, go get it. The only thing that is stopping you is you. Will it be hard? Yes. Is it doable? Absolutely. So go for it. That's what I tell everyone.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for choosing us today. And I want you to choose you and continue to live your best life in your most happiest way. Thank you.